As a matter of fact, UAPs are real. Talking about
Secret of Skinwalker Ranch, you should.
got to bring a rocket.
And bring a rocket. Yeah, we considered bringing a rocket to the show. Hi, everybody. I'm here with Tim, and we're live right now at the University of Hampshire InterOperability Laboratory, where I used to work for 10 years, at a Plugfest, which should I go into exactly what that means? There's a bunch of people all working on protocol that we work on together. The user services platform, broadband forums, TR369. They're all in there. They have both sides of everything. Oh, hey, that's us.
Okay, no, just
Testing both sides of the equation and doing it real time. And the engineers are all sitting there and working out stuff. And it's really fun. So I figured this would be a great opportunity for us to do our first live event.
Right.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
It's weird. So right now, people are watching us. You can actually comment if you're on LinkedIn right now watching us. You can post comments and we will see them come up. I can't type my answers to you, but I can say them out loud. As always, the Epik Mellon podcast is brought to you by QA Cafe, and as such, the views expressed by myself or Tim do not reflect those of QA Cafe or its ownership. The same thing goes for Nokia, which, it's amazing. You're still with Nokia.
Yes. It's been a year.
It's been a whole year that another company hasn't.
Yes. Stability.
20. That was so funny. We were telling the story of how many companies Tim has worked for over the years, even though technically he's doing the same job the whole time. And we were telling the story to somebody out there, and I was like, "Yeah, it was like 20," and he was thinking I was exaggerating, but I was not exaggerating. Epik Mellon Podcast is brought to you by CD Router, the industry standard test platform for broadband gateways, Wi-Fi devices, and other CPE, and also the official test platform of the user services platform, and TR69 too, and a bunch of other things. Purple OS.
Very purpley.
Yep. And as well as CloudShark, our awesome system for letting you work together on packet captures and keeping them all in one place and keeping your history together and making it so that you never lose anything, and it's way easier to work remotely and as a team rather than passing them huge files. And alongside that is Packet Viewer, which is the more behind CloudShark that you can add to as an OEM to any of your cloud managed networking or cybersecurity products. That's it. Okay.
It's not a beer this time. I'm a little disappointed.
I know. We can't. It's okay.
That's all right. We'll do it sober for once.
Yeah. I apologize for the lighting, but we wanted you guys to see like the beautifulness that is the University of New Hampshire campus. So
not the refrigerator that we're working in all
No. It's cold in there.
It's a refrigerator.
It's also very loud.
Yeah. It is a weird loudness. You ever notice that? It's not loud, but you can't hear anybody.
It's a white.
Yeah.
So what the hell were we going to talk about? I forgot.
So good lead in. Yeah. So we got a Plugfest in there, right? We're doing so in the Plugfest, you have a standard set of tests that you run usually. The beautiful thing about this Plugfest and previous Plugfest is we're actually doing new things. So we're on the fly writing some testing right now.
Oh yeah, which I think is fun.
We were gonna talk about, so the last time where we left off, we were gonna talk about USB services, right?
Mm-hmm.
So actually this Plugfest is the first time we're gonna interrupt test with some USB services scripts. So we got a couple of those in there.
Yeah.
We got a couple of extended Wi-Fi tests that we're running. So we're trying to push the boundaries a little bit more.
Yeah.
Into the new features that we just added in the last
year. It's true. And I so just to give people a history of what we're talking about, right? So the UNHIOL has been running Plugfest for a very long time, almost to the point where they kind of made up the word, even though some other people copyrighted it. that wasn't here.
So really, they kind of originated the term.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's because it started, my goodness, back in like the 90s. Right. And I forget what the first one was. Anyway, so we really,
well, it used to be Plugfest because you were plugging cables in.
Literally plugging. Yeah. Right. Yeah. So they used to do all kinds of ones for Ethernet and DSL and all that. And then when I met Tim, it was because we had come along and we're like, we should do this for TR69, which is the protocol that I've talked about before. But if you need a refresher, it's the thing that allows your operator to.
As we were writing this, we decided to do this.
Oh yeah,
because it was still on ink.
Oh, you're right. Yeah. Well,
yeah.
not even writing. It wasn't you were. I think you guys were writing some test spec.
Yeah, maybe that.
And
they could have.
I walked in and I was like, hey.
Had it come out? Was it 2004 by then?
It was 2006 when we did the first Plugfest.
So it would have been probably 5. Okay, so it would have been published, but we just had
showed up.
Right.
Yeah. Well, and that's how we found that version 0 was broken.
Right.
Yeah. So excellent. Anyway, long story short, fast forward to now. The thing I was going to bring up is that before, when it was very, very big, right? Because there was a lot of people. There was like 40 companies or something like that. And so things had to be very, very defined.
Right.
And the time slices of people getting to test with each other was very small, because we try to make it fair, try to make it so everybody can test with everybody else, right? This one is thankfully smaller, which is cool because it's allowing us to do that, be a little bit more loose with it, right? Yeah. And be like, oh, let's just try this now.
Yeah. Well, and the first time through TR69 was the rush to gold, right?
Yeah.
Because nothing existed before, and all of a sudden, there were service providers said, we want to do this now.
Right.
So that's why you had everybody, coming in, plowing away, right, trying to get it to work.
Right. Yeah. And thankfully, I mean, people at least saw the value in saying that they had been there and done things.
Right. Well, and one of the reasons, as we talked last time, for standards in general is interoperability, right? I mean, it's the whole concept is you're all trying to work off the same page. So
yeah.
And this has been a very valuable tool through that time, because even last year when we were here doing we found a bunch of little problems here and there, right?
You don't know what you don't know.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Yep. Well, and to separate it from, because you guys also do the conformance test plan, right?
Right.
So the conformance test plan says, thou shall perform these tests and it will work. And that way I know when I go in, I can interoperate with you because I know these work. What the Plugfest does is like, hey, we got some new stuff, right? We haven't made it a new chapter in the conformance test for it. We're going to test it out here. We're going to make sure we got it right. We're going to find out, things about it. And that's what we're doing today.
Right.
So this is like that leading edge so that these will start working into the test plan.
Right. And the other thing that it helps with that we were just talking about yesterday is that as much as we like to think that we are great at writing standards, you never know what is not clear. Tim is very good at pointing out what is not clear, but even he has his limits. And so when we go and we have people actually building stuff in real time and trying it out, we find out the things that didn't make sense or that we thought made perfect sense.
Correct.
But wasn't entirely clear. Right.
Yeah. Well, and there are things like it looks good on paper, but then when you go to execute it, it's like, wow, we kind of made this kind of difficult.
Right.
And so we'll go back maybe next time and refine that so it isn't as difficult, right?
Right. Yeah. And so we end up coming up with updates to the spec that way and everything. It's kind of like a focus group.
It's more like a support group.
I'm just seeing if we got any messages somewhere.
Oh, I don't know if they're showing up.
No. No, so because my dad is probably watching, and if there's anything wrong with the audio, he would probably message me, and I
can't hear you.
Yeah. What was I going to say about that? So that process is very sobering, but it also sort of makes me appreciate the standards making process. And I was giving the analogy yesterday about Dungeons and Dragons, right? So if for those of you who don't know, there is a new version that just came out, and the way that they wrote it, Tim's not that much of a nerd. He's a different kind of nerd. The way that they wrote it made me think of the ways that we have to think about stuff, and they did it very good because they were like because they wanted it to be backwards compatible, and so they're using language like overriding language, right? So being like, if you got this from any other source, then this overrides that, implying that you can still use the old stuff, but if you're going to use this thing, then you need to use the new thing. Right. And I was like, oh man, that's cool. That's exactly what
we do.
Yeah. Pretty much. Right. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, it's interesting because you don't know what you don't know, and um, oh, sweet, thanks, Dad.
Always
Um,
watching.
and the um the conformance stuff is always important, like you're saying,
Mhm.
but you don't know what you don't know,
Right.
and there's a lot of things that are open to interpretation on purpose,
Yep.
because one of the things that you have to understand about standards is that we have to there has to be some flexibility.
So,
Otherwise, it's like, why would anyone build it? Right?
right.
There would just be one solution,
Right.
right?
Right.
No one be
Well,
anyone.
you're slightly bounded, right? You want to do these things coming, but everybody's going to do their own flavor of features, functions, stuff like
The
that.
why is different.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so because the why is different, there's a lot of things that you might not expect
Mhm.
that happen. And it's not just misinterpretations either, because at least with USP and because of the data model, bing, I need to have like little things pop up that explain.
Talking points.
A data model is a computer readable description and human readable description
Mostly.
of a set of things that you can do to one of these things that you can manage with the protocol, right? It's very big because
Yeah.
there's a lot of things, right? There's every single network interface you could ever think of, right? At least for a home gateway. Uh, there's um, there's all of the different applications that might be running on it, right? That even ones that aren't just router applications, right? So
Mhm.
firewalls and all
Right.
that stuff, but then a whole bunch of other stuff on top of that, and things down the road, right? Things with smart home stuff, all those kinds of things. Wi-Fi, which has how
Well,
many freaking parameters?
for anybody who's popped open your router homepage,
Mhm.
it's that stuff.
It's all that
Yeah.
stuff, right, right, right.
It's pretty
And
much
then
all,
some, though,
and
right?
that, and much more. Yeah. Yeah.
Because I think with Wi-Fi Alliance data elements added to the data model, it was like
Pretty big chunk.
it's hundreds more parameters.
Yeah.
So it's big, and so everybody who's building something, they're only building what they need to build
Right.
for what they're doing, right? Um, but that means that there's so much to possibly test that there's no way that we could cover it all with just like
Right.
automated conformance.
Right.
And so doing stuff like this, it's cool because somebody who has designed their product to implement certain things a certain
Mhm.
way runs up against somebody else who, on the controller side, the
Right.
controller is basically the app that's interpreting what the thing does and can do. Um, then it suddenly has to run into all that stuff for the
Right.
first time, maybe.
Right. Well, and I mean, we're in a even more now than ever in a more of a rapid developing environment as far as the data model goes, right? I mean, we're actually trying to chunk it out twice a year now,
Mhm.
right?
Oh
And
yeah.
we're trying to, especially important features, not spend 2 years discussing it, trying to get them through. So we're trying to improve that process a little bit. And well, when you're moving rapid, you might miss a few things.
Yeah. No, it's
you
true.
you learn a few things.
Fail
that-
fast.
Yeah.
Agile is a hell of a
Agile.
drug.
Yeah. We're not agiling through it.
Yeah. I mean, I like it. I think it works better because
Yeah.
otherwise we would be behind all the time.
Well,
Yeah.
technology moves fast.
Yeah.
Right. I
Right.
mean, how many Wi-Fi's have we gone through in the time we've been through this, right?
But damn it, we said we wouldn't talk about anything. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
crazy.
But on that same, right, it's you have to keep up.
Yeah.
Right. And then that's what we're trying to do by getting into the data model quicker. And then you have things like this, right?
Right.
Where we're actually starting to play with it a little bit. All right. If you have come to the Plugfest, you have this capability, let's try it. Let's test this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what are we doing for the Wi-Fi management stuff?
Just some real basic tests, but it's part of the data elements stuff,
Right.
not just the basic Wi-Fi, and associate, disassociate from a controller, get the updates that somebody came, somebody left.
Yep.
Something pretty basic. I think in a neighborhood scan, you can do like see all the access points around you,
Right.
stuff
Right.
like that.
Cool.
Yeah.
And so that for those who don't know, that functionality has been sort of the biggest pain point for modern broadband networks for a number
Your
of
internet
years.
isn't working.
Yeah. The Wi-Fi is not working. Your internet's not working. Wi-Fi is getting more and more complicated because it can do more and more things, and it's better, right?
Right.
But it needs a little active participation. No, maybe, and not even necessarily active control, but definitely active diagnostics where it's like finding out that something's wrong before it's wrong, right?
Well, and then the whole thing with data elements and that is the concept that you have multiple access points
Mhm.
and you're trying to make sure one's not overloaded and you're trying to shift it and equally balance your home basically. And that's something never had to deal with before.
Right.
So we have nice big, like you said, complex data model in order to pull back statistics, in order to see where your pain points are, right?
Yeah.
Try to make the proper shifts when necessary.
Right. And just at the very basic level, pretend you couldn't even control anything. At least when you're diagnosing a problem for the customer, you can know what the actual problem is.
Well, yeah, and, it has a lot of troubleshooting capabilities because it's just tons of statistics,
Mhm.
so you can in an instant kind of see what situation they're in. The other thing it leads itself to, the thing we talked about before, is you have now, I'm company X and I've got a great way to make sure you don't have problems. They still have to rely on that data model. They still have to pull the information from it,
Yeah.
but then they're doing calculations in the background or on your CPE or in the cloud that are going to say, no, we need to shift this guy over here,
Right.
this unit over here, that that type of stuff.
Right. And for a while, and this is not to discount any of the people who actually have had proprietary solutions to this, because many of them are very good. But for a while, it was only proprietary solutions.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
A very competitive landscape of proprietary solutions, actually.
Right. 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 Well, it's a problem, right?
Yeah.
So that's
Mhm.
there's going to be a lot of people trying to solve it.
Yeah. And so for a while, um, people were sort of billing themselves on the secret sauce of doing the best Wi-Fi management.
Mhm.
Um, and it's still true that a lot of them still have that in terms of like their algorithms and
Mhm.
stuff. But just the raw information and how it's described and all that
Yeah.
stuff is now standardized, right?
Right. Right. Well, and you mentioned Purple earlier. They're very in support of that, and that is a good majority of your service providers out there, right?
Yeah.
That are saying, no, we want to use this.
Mhm.
We know everybody has their secret sauce, but we want to be able to drop a platform anywhere and know it has this capability. And then you can put, whatever you need on top of it to actually do the real work.
Right.
But we want this out there.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
it's become very important in the industry.
That's a great segue to the other things that you can add to a gateway now,
Right. Right.
which we're also trying out
Right.
a little bit. Um, and this is not, I brought this up on the show before. This is not to say that there was a trend for a while. We've talked about this before, that your broadband gateway was going to become a dumb box that just didn't do anything.
Yeah.
It just passed packets,
Yeah.
and then
Yes.
all of the apps would be in the cloud,
Yes.
right? Even like the really basic functions like IP connectivity.
Yeah. Routing.
Right.
Yeah. I do
routing,
routing.
right?
All right. Yeah.
Turns out that sucked.
Didn't work out so well.
Or not even that didn't work out so well, but where we are now is that box in your house is really powerful now,
Computer.
right?
Yeah.
It's a full-fledged computer that
Yep.
can do a lot of shit.
Yep. Yep.
And that's cool.
Yep.
People didn't know it was going to go that direction.
Right.
And
And there's still a cloud aspect.
Right.
It's not completely right. There's still things you can do in the cloud, but to your point, it's not just a dumb box.
right,
Right.
right. And it's also like the best point of it's the best like focus point for so many things.
I was going to say point of sale, right? I mean, it's like feature. You're right.
Yeah.
I mean, we're always talking about adding features and functions right there. Boom.
Yeah.
You're the entry point into the consumer.
Right.
Right.
Um, and so it is poised to be this great thing that can um, serve the end users very well because it knows everything about the network.
Mm-hmm.
So any application that touches the network at all or needs to make sure something's working that's the best place for it to run. But also things like smart home tech and all the things that you would want about managing your broadband experience, right? So parental controls and
Right.
security
Right.
and all those things. It's all great for it to work there. And so what we've worked on is the ability to, because these are powerful compute platforms, and the way of the future is containerization, that you can you can do that to these gateways and install applications, very complicated applications that actually have to touch really low level stuff.
Yeah.
Into these devices, and then they have a mechanism now to update that data model that we're talking about with their new functionality in real time.
Yep.
And then and report that. So we're going to try that too.
Yeah. USP services,
Which is
he's
what
talking about.
Yeah.
So that's the big name for something. It is, as you explained it, it's a service. It's a functionality that I'm gonna drop on the box. Now, what we've added is the ability to real time change that data model.
Right.
So in the past, if you had a data model update, you have to do a firmware upgrade.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Now I can drop a container down there, and all of a sudden, boom, it's part of the data model.
Yep.
And now I'm up and functioning. And this was, I remember I got the call from you. I think it was like almost 2020, something like that. I think I was actually even in between jobs. I was just still working for and that's when the purple guys came. Purple guy, yeah,
Oh, yeah,
forever be the purple guys.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
they,
it was Rowcam.
where they came and they said, "Hey, we want this ability to do that." And you would remember that was something we had looked at doing initially.
Right.
In USP, was having that capability that you could drop containers down there, have all this way for them to communicate. And so then we started doing, and that was kind of a different period of time, because we, rather than our normal, weekly talk about tickets meeting, I started like just special USP meetings to talk about how we're going to do that. So we started bare bones on that one.
Right.
We're like, okay, how does that going to happen? How we're going to manage that? How does that, you're going to have this alternate data model? How does it become part of the data model? How do you say, what happens if the service dies? There's a lot of questions, right? And we spent at least a couple years on that. That's why now, anytime we meet, if you come to the Broadband Forum and you get to sit in a USP meeting, it's now the Pirate's Den. So I have my pirate shirt on today. It's the Pirate's Den.
It is the Pirate's Den. Yeah.
So, as mighty pirates, we work through, and it's still, I would say we still have more ways we can go with that.
Mhm.
I mean, we've got it to a point now where we can do this, but there are deeper nuances that we can take USB services to in the future as well.
Right.
And it's just, you're waiting for the demand, right? So it's the whole, now that we've offered it, you're going to start seeing it trickle in. You're going to, and then they're going to come back and say, well, why can't we do this? Why can't we do that?
Right.
And we got a little pre-planning. We know some stuff's
going. Oh, we were talking about that yesterday, about the difference between writing a standard about something ahead of time and having somebody say, well, build it first and then we'll talk. Right.
Yeah.
And so one thing that I always joke about Tim is that, like, eventually he's right. Even though we all tell him he's wrong at first,
plotting what
eventually you become right. And so that's happened for a lot of these things, where it's like, we should probably think about this. And we're like, yeah. And then like 3 years later, we're like, oh, people did want that.
Yeah. Right. Well, and it made sense at the time because we had to get something out.
Yeah.
You could spend forever in committee, right? I mean, that's, we've learned that lesson over and over. You have to get something out. You got to get some work. And we were conscious when we did USP to make sure we didn't close doors. I mean, the whole concept of operations.
Oh, yeah.
You don't have to write it in the spec anymore. You just put it in the data model.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, I can create a whole new thing.
Which makes it extremely dynamic. The way that it used to work in TR69 was that you had to actually revise the entire protocol in order to add a new piece of functionality.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
A new remote procedure call RPC.
Right.
But now we're like, no, screw that.
Yep.
You just drop this in and you use this one message to call it, and then it does its thing.
Yep.
So it's way more adaptable in that respect. I think maybe I don't want to spoil anything, but the kinds of things that you can imagine being able to drop into a box later are certain kinds of smart home functionality from certain protocols that will remain nameless right now, but I think everybody knows what I'm talking about.
Yeah. What does it matter?
Yeah. Now you only have one left. You can only make that joke 3 times.
Just doesn't matter.
And Yeah, so that'll be cool because the gateway really is the. I wish I've said this before, but like I'm interested to see how consumers approach this in the future. Right? It's like, what do they call that box?
Yeah.
Right.
Well,
It's before it was the router, it was like the Wi-Fi router, and it's like, okay, that's a thing. I kind of understand what it does, and it kind of sits there over on the shelf.
Mhm.
I kind of hope it looks pretty, or maybe it doesn't. I don't care.
Maybe shut the closet door.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah. Which don't do that, please. Um, uh, and but now it's it really because our broadband connections are basically the most important things in our lives, right?
Mhm.
It's like water and electricity and heat
Yeah.
and connectivity.
We'll go back 10 years
Right.
ago. Think about just not you and I, but just think of the common, consumer. You'd have maybe one or two other little devices,
Hmm.
maybe now those devices have been around for 10 years. People have light switches, they have, all kinds of devices. I think I've got like 20 in my home, right?
Yeah.
All of a sudden, you're managing that now,
Right.
right? And so this will give, because at the end of the day, service providers have been through this enough to say, when something doesn't work, they're always going to get the call,
Right.
right? I mean, and so what we're trying to do is give them every tool available so that they can go in and remotely, again, not a truck roll, remotely go in and diagnose what that problem might be.
Right. Yep.
So they're becoming conscious of the fact that they, although it's not their box, they still are going to have to deal with the fact that it's spraying, data all over the place,
Right.
and they're going to have to be able to go in and make those, determine. And that's what we're constantly trying to add to the data model is ability to do that.
Right. And it's interesting because it's like, what were we talking about the sheer Tim Winters was talking about this, about the sheer influx of application vendors
Right.
that have popped up
Right.
that want to install stuff on gateways.
Right.
And we were like, where did all these people come from? But like,
I can almost remember the overhead where, and this was back pre-USP, where we started talking about an app store.
Yeah.
No different from your phone.
Right.
Putting it on, and now we're there.
Yep.
You can do it now.
Whether or not people experience it that way, right? Like it could very much be that way. And I think that it's cool. Like I think that it goes down the road of what I was saying before, where it's like that box is going to be. That's where I left off. Right, is that box is going to become this very, very important fixture.
Mhm.
Not that it already isn't,
Right.
but like one that you are aware of as a consumer.
Yes.
It's like your whatever we call it, connectivity hub or home hub or
Yes.
whatever, right?
Right.
It does everything, right?
Right. Well, everything goes through it.
Oh, which is interesting because that's kind of what Google and Amazon, everybody were trying to make the smart speakers do, right? And even then, some of them tried to put Wi-Fi functionality in it or routing functionality in it, right? I think that's all going to kind of like coalesce, just because they can.
Right.
Yeah, and it's it is super late in terms of like you think of how long this has been smart.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You're right.
yeah.
Yeah. That is a good analogy, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Because it's basically the same thing. And this is now the most important device that everybody has.
Right. Pocket computer.
Mhm.
Well,
So this place is obviously very beautiful, but I'm not going to say it's the most exciting place in the world. But have you looked around? Are there any shows at all
oh
while
yeah.
you're here?
Saw one when it came.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah.
Was
Yeah.
that last night?
Priest. No, Sunday night.
Sunday
Up in
night. Oh, and you
Boston.
came in.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Oh, so you landed in Boston and stayed there, and then
No, or landed with show and it came down.
nice.
Perfect.
That's what was it? Who was it?
KK Priest. It's the guy from Judas Priest, the guitarist.
Oh, nice.
And
He's just got. Where was it?
At Wilbur. Have you ever been there?
Oh yeah. So in the theater district.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's a small venue. Yeah,
Cool.
fun.
Awesome.
Absolutely.
I appreciate. I was hoping that you would look something up. It's post season in Portsmouth, so things are starting to quiet down.
Right.
So there hasn't been too much. And there's not a lot of music. It's not there's not a lot of music venues anymore. There's a couple. And I don't know if they're your
It depends who's playing there.
yeah. But this is Durham, so this is like right up the street from me. And from where I usually record this show, which is over there. I don't know if you gave me office in there.
Well, see, as I always tell my wife, it's like the most important decision I make is which T-shirt to wear
Yes.
when you go to shows. It's very important. I've got a lot of shirts,
Mhm.
and so before the podcast, I was teetering. It was almost the Tesla shirt because it's a dual meeting. And I went with the Visions of Atlantis because it's the pirate shirt.
It's pirate metal. It's awesome.
Yes. Like I said, USP, we're the Pirates Den. So
It really is like whatever. Actually, when I went to start this show, right, I was like, man, like most networking people are a set of weird dynamic cowboys. Like we are pirates. We're pirates.
yeah, we don't conform to the norm.
No, and it's there's a reason I say it's the most fun you'll ever have in standards because we try to do that.
Yeah,
Because
a little Wild Westy.
yeah.
Yep.
But I like it because even with the stuff that we've been talking about with Matter, I feel cool about it because at any time we sit down and we're like, you know what we're gonna do? This now.
Yeah.
We're like, what? Yeah, we're doing it now. And then we just go and we do it.
Well, like I said, we're trying our best not to spend time burning and churning.
Right.
And let's just get it out there. We've done it long enough to where you kind of, you got the litmus test, you got a few things you look for. And as long as it's passing that, let's move forward.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. Right. We blew it later. No. Okay. USP pirates. I like it. We need new T-shirts.
Can't wait for the T-shirts at the.
Oh, those are going to be so cool. So, well, we should talk about that.
Yeah.
It's TR69's 20th anniversary.
Yep.
This year.
Yep.
Which is a long time.
Yeah.
And so there's been some, and I've done this on a couple other interviews and podcasts, people asking about like what it means when we say that we're sunsetting it. I'm choosing my words very carefully.
You can still use it.
Because it basically just means that we're not going to write anything about it anymore.
Right. And it's actually a misnomer because we actually still have been updating the data model for it.
Oh yeah.
So
because it takes no effort to do that.
Right. And it, it's going to be featureless. I mean, there's going to be a lot of things it can't do because it is what it is, right? But and still in use. I mean,
oh yeah,
predominantly.
It will be for a long time. Actually, there's one company here that had just started developing their Tier 69 ACS solution in like 2017.
Yeah.
So that was after we were up. It was just when we were about to launch USP.
Right.
And so the demand is out there, and it always will be.
Right.
And that's why I tried to put together that graphic of the cowboy riding off in the sunset, because if we ever need him, he'll come back. We put out the call. It's been a really humbling experience. It really has.
Yep. Absolutely.
Every single time that I see either just a bunch of companies being successful because of the stuff we worked on, it's cool. Every time I see it in my own router.
Yeah. Well, and we mentioned this last time. It's not many people that can say they've worked on something that's in over 1 billion devices.
Right.
I mean, right? That's a lot.
Calm down, ITF guys.
Yeah. 1 billion.
Yes. We all know IP is great. IPv6 is better.
Well, we're just pirates. We just work on top IP.
Tim heard me.
Yeah.
So the T-shirt, the Tier 69 20th anniversary T-shirt. It's like right. I'm not going to spoil it too much, but it's basically a rock concert T-shirt in honor of Tim.
Show up to the meeting and get yours.
Yeah, can definitely come. You can get.
They let me help design it.
Which was, people were nervous when I said we were gonna do that, but it turned out great. It basically has like all the dates of all of the different versions of Tier 69 and when and where they were published. Like it's a band T-shirt. It's amazing. And thanks to the Z Factor guys who did that. It was It's pretty great.
And just like this shirt, I'm gonna have everybody sign it. It's because I gotta have a band to sign the shirt.
Yeah.
That's the other thing.
Right.
We do a whole podcast on bands and concert going in.
We really could. We really could, especially because I mean I haven't gone. I'm actually going to 21 Pilots Friday.
Cool.
This Friday.
I can give you all the pointers.
Mhm.
I've got a book.
Of how to get the best life
Preparations,
experience.
everything.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
You should write a book.
Yeah.
Or a blog. Have you considered doing a blog?
Yeah.
Yeah.
My wife tells me I should. I'm like, yeah.
Yeah. No, you just. I mean, people. I would read that. People would read that.
No.
Oh yeah, that's right, Ken. The criteria for the T-shirt is something that you would wear.
Oh yes,
Yeah.
that was it. Yes. No, exactly. Oh yeah. No, I'm very proud of this T-shirt. I was very excited about it. Yeah.
So in the San Diego meeting, we're going to do a lot of 20th anniversary stuff.
Yep.
And which is it's gonna be a great meeting to go to.
Yep.
And
but
then
it's still the cornerstone.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we're still building on top of it, and we're now starting to see transition away, because if you want to do new fun things, you got to do something new, right? But it still does the old things well, right?
Yep. Yeah, and it will for as long as it needs to.
Yep.
It's totally fine.
Yep.
Yeah. Updating firmware. Yeah, it's I say it's been a humbling experience, because like if it wasn't for the fact that I walked into that room that day, my life would be very different.
Yeah. Right. I think about it. It's like, if I wouldn't have read the DSO reports, thought about it, because we were members, but nobody. I think maybe somebody from marketing was going at the time. It was, and
was this what, West Town?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it was, and I'm like, I got these ideas, and they're like, well, we should go to the meeting. Oh, okay. And that meeting, the first meeting.
No way.
That was it. Yeah. Yeah. That was the one where I told you, Jeff and I was like, all right, you guys go work on this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's
Get involved, people. Come join us.
Yes. It is. It's not, and I've said this before, but like, at least put my broadband format on. Not that it wasn't on, but we are making an active effort to make it so that like the real like what's the word? The rote work, like the
Yes.
the everyday
exactly
stuff
what
that
we should be
that we
doing.
have to review, very, in like issues lists and all that stuff.
We got calls for that.
We have calls for that. So we don't do that stuff at the meeting anymore. The meeting is for talking about stuff that needs to be talked about in real time, coming up with new ideas,
Vision work.
hanging out.
Vision work. How about that?
Vision work.
We do vision work.
Ooh,
Come to
very
Broadband
nice.
Forum.
Yeah.
We do vision work.
Yeah. And some of it is stuff that like is things that are complicated topics that we didn't think of.
Right.
Right. So one of the biggest things about the 20th anniversary of Tier 69 and the sunsetting of Tier 69 is the transition from that to USP, and how to do it.
Yep.
And how to do it well and safely. And there's some things that we didn't think about. Right.
There's plenty of unsafe ways to do
There were plenty of unsafe ways to do it. You can't just shut the lights off. So we're actually testing some of that here too.
Yeah.
Some of those.
Yeah, actually, that was one of your pain points in here, was, and not only from you, but I hear it a lot from Purple and places like that, is the bleed over points between TR69 and USP, because we have it fairly segmented, but I think we may be doing some more bleed over so that they can kind of do things from either side.
Right.
I know that's
and make it more, because it's in retrospect, it's probably very inefficient and ridiculous to expect people to have two completely different systems that aren't touching each other.
And we went through great lengths to keep the data model the same when we transition from TR69 to 369. That's why it can be shared between the two of them, because a lot of things are the same.
Right.
The base structure of it's the same.
Right. Exactly. Right. Yeah. And so it's not too bad.
No, but your point, it's it used to be birds of a feather. And it used to be, come in and talk about
it was
things.
like really specific extra stuff that we were doing.
But now you're doing almost a pointed birds of the feather, because you bring it, you're like a couple meetings ago when you brought in a couple different industries, but here was their data pain points. Here's how they're using Wi-Fi or stuff like that.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. It's fun.
Yeah.
I appreciate all that stuff.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I mean, that's the kind of stuff that we're going to talk about in November. So come join us.
Yes. Come innovate.
You're good to hang out with me and Tim. Oh, actually, the last time we did this show, it wasn't after this favorite anecdote of mine. I think I talked about it with Craig when he was on the show about how, not just like Ken is just saying, not just walking through the door and reading a report and having it change your life, but like when we had people come to the forum, and if we hadn't talked to them and just sat around and did our usual shit, then maybe they wouldn't have joined. They felt very, deflated.
Yeah.
But like,
right.
There was it was Randy, if you're listening right now. We met him right away on day one, and it was like, yeah, come out with us.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And like, I remember he was like, okay, I need to find a way so there's a reason for me to keep doing this all the time.
It's a community.
It is.
Community of innovators.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
It is. We all have that spirit, which is I think that spirit is sort of the point behind the show, right? Because nobody gets here without at least a little bit of that.
Yeah. No. Right. Oh, absolutely.
Right. Well, I won't keep you from doing the testing thing. I think you're actually supposed to be doing right now. There's two Tims. One's in there right now. He's just sitting here. Cool. All right. Anything else you can think of?
No, I think we covered what we needed to cover. And so the next time we do this, I think from now on, the only time we do it is when we're together and it's live. I like the no headsets, no office. This is the second time we've done it. We sat next to each other. That's how we got to do it.
Yeah, I agree. And next time it won't be 10 a.m.
Yes.
We can have a beer.
Yeah. Next time I want a beer.
Hop and Grind is over there, and they're not open yet. All right, dude. Thanks, everybody. Man, so this is the first time I've ever done this live. So this has streamed simultaneously through StreamYard, which is a great piece of software, to YouTube and LinkedIn at the same time. So if you're on YouTube, either way, go over to YouTube and hit subscribe, because that's where you'll get the most updates. This will stick around on LinkedIn, I think, for 6 months. But this video will be up on YouTube when it's supposed to be up. It'll be up there forever. I'll have my guys put together the Apple Podcast versions and all this. That should be out soon. But I hope everybody had a good time. And above all, own the nerdy things you love and have fun doing them. Cheers.